Oh, hello. It's that time again for the Microsoft release plan. This time for 2026, Wave 1. There's quite a bit of interesting stuff in this release wave. It's going to take me a while to read it all, or you can stay tuned and Ulrikke and I will go through the highlights of what's in this release plan. Hope you enjoy it.
Welcome, everyone, to the Power Platform Boost podcast, your weekly source of news and updates from the world of the Power Platform and the Microsoft community, with your host, Nick Dolman and Ulrikke Akabek.
Hey, Nick, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm still here. I'm still in St. John's I was supposed to be home 2 days ago, but a lot of storm systems and kind of weather related travel. But you know what? I'm not complaining because I was actually in the comfortable hotel room where a lot of my friends are stuck at airports, either halfway home or they were stuck on the way here. Some people missed their competition, unfortunately. So all in all, not complaining, but I'm going home today and can't wait.
So last time we recorded our usual episode was on Monday last week, and I was kind of rooting for you and waiting for the link to what she lift and stuff. So tell people, how did it go?
2 gold medals in bench press, and in 3 lift, top 5. I got a couple PRs there, so I'm really happy overall with everything. It was a good week of lifting and everything like that. So I'm happy, looking forward to the next one. So I have a couple choices to make in terms of international competitions and that kind of thing. So yeah, it was good. But I think we talked a lot last week about the weather and powerlifting and a bunch of things. So maybe the people want to hear, maybe the people want to hear about the release wave, which I think is always one of our more popular episodes. So I know we get a lot of listeners that don't always tune in, but guys, like and follow us. Every 2 weeks we talk about the same stuff, just in a different context.
Yeah, and actually a lot of the times that we do this, it's old news because we've talked about it already. So it's like, oh yeah, so this is in the release notes, and then wait, this was private preview when, and it's GA now. I was like, oh, this is old news. Or there'll be things that we talked about the last release wave episode. It's like, oh, is this old thing still here? They didn't get that out. Okay, last time. All right, okay. So then it's coming back and it's coming back and it's coming back. And I'm like, will they ever unify the system user and the contact for the Dataverse for Power Pages? You think ever? Like, it's been in the last two release waves. We'll see.
Stay tuned and find out.
Funny. All right. So just to say congratulations. Well done on the powerlifting thing. And that's all we'll say about it. Moving on to the release waves, because we alluded to this in the last episode that was last week, that we had a surprise, but because of course you can't really say that the release waves are coming. And also new this year is usually they're announced in January or in August, and then they are valid from kind of March until October. But this time they are closing the gaps, so we get them in March, and it's kind of from now until it's supposed to be October. And a lot of this is for kind of the summer, next 6 months. But some of it also extends kind of beyond that reach. So I'm expecting the next release wave won't be released until October. So that's kind of, if you're waiting for some news, you can shift your schedule a little bit.
What's cool is like a lot of the dates are saying like April 2026. So it's literally in a couple of weeks, some of these things should be lighting up. So it's not a case of this is coming in the far future. It's some of these things, and I mean, some of these things are already there, just still considered in preview, but they will be GA. And we'll discuss that as we go through some of our favorites. And we can't go deep dive on each and every one of these things, but hopefully we hit the highlights and give you folks enough info that you can kind of begin to take a look yourself and make some decisions on your projects.
Yeah, because if we did that, we would be here for an hour. Yeah, that would be crazy.
An hour?
Like we get one each, and I'm the one to say that, and then I give you shit for not doing what I tell you to do, and then I'm the one that kind of go, can I do 3 in 1?
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So we're going to cover a Power Platform specifically, but I know that there are release waves for Dynamics 365 specific things, and also we got a release wave plan for the sales and the other agent, customer service, business application specific agents. So if you're kind of into those areas as well, we don't cover those in this podcast, but I'm sure you can find other resources to do that. Or you can do what Nick usually do when these are released and put them out into a notebook and have Notebook create a podcast for you, which is probably just as good as listening to this one. I don't know.
No, it's not. I mean, it's the two AI people, they're chatting, whatever, but they don't have the same level of ridiculous banter and rabbit holes and bad segues and bad jokes and talk about the weather and our families and all the crazy stuff that we do. So if you're looking for a boring one, check out that one. If you're looking for an unpredictable wild ride, then stay right here.
I love it. All right, so we'll cover as Power Apps and Power Pages, and then there's Power Automate, Copilot Studio, and then Dataverse, and then also we'll have a little bit of a glance into what's deprecated at the end. So kicking off with Power Apps, it's the kind of each of these segments. First, they list their focus areas for this next 6 months, and then kind of what they're investing in. And then they have specific release items with private preview, public preview, or GA dates. And for Power Apps, the focus this time is a more modern look. So model-driven apps will get a refreshed, consistent look. It's going to be default, so you're not going to have to flip it on and off. They're focusing on mobile and offline improvements, and also search improvements and AI enhancements with localization for generative pages, which I am very keen to see. With building modern apps, better collaboration tools, which is going to be exciting to see. And then enable enterprise scale, which I find is always in there somewhere, but very non-specific. It's like, yes, and more, even more enterprise grade. Right. Okay, good. Because it was before, but skill is still, and even more. Yeah.
It's now even more. It's like a cereal box.
Yeah. Not only that, but and as you said, most of this is kind of public preview March-ish and then GA April-ish. So very kind of, there's an optimism, I would say, in these release notes for Power Apps. The team is going to work like crazy between March and April, and then, easy summer holiday from then on, probably.
Yeah. It's the Microsoft calendar.
Yeah, exactly.
I say it, air quotes.
And also the funny thing is for the enable enterprise scale item is the usage page, which was actually public preview in December. We'll see. Okay, what's your topic for
out of all of these? I have comments on other things, but my top one, which I think I'm excited about, and I think you're excited about, is the fact that generative pages will be available globally. That to me has been, for Canadian projects, because I'm working on a few, it's been a little bit of a roadblock. And I know it's for you as well, that there's been a few situations where you want to use generative pages and you can't because it's not yet available in your particular geography. And of course, we're clever people. We think we're smart. That's okay. I'm going to build it in a US environment, and I'm going to create my generative page, and I'm going to move my solution into my Canadian environment. Everything's going to be fine. Code is code, right? Like, whatever. And then, so I tried that in my Canadian environment and get a big ol', it actually gives a very typical to Microsoft way, not a nice little message saying, sorry, it's not here yet. It's more like some weird error, missing components, blah, blah, blah. So looking forward to the fact that generative pages will be available globally. And I know there's also some enhancements that we've talked about in the regular podcast that is coming there. And I think we'll talk about that next week as well. Some of the things people in the community have been doing in terms of creating generative pages and tying it all in and just making that model-driven app experience is way better. So that is my top pick. What is your top pick?
I knew you were going to pick that. So I picked something else. I picked, because you can now use CLI to discover, create, and wire connections in code apps. It's going to be public preview in May, and it's going to be GA in July. It's a 2-month gap, and I expect it's going to be delayed, but it's Let me just open it up right now. So the new Power Apps CLI will get new commands that will allow developers to discover available connections and create connectors and create connections directly from the command line. Yeah. So it's going to remove yet another barrier for the developers to have to go in through the UI kind of experience to do this. And also I saw discovering connection creation as part of the end-to-end prompt to app workflows. So it's kind of the enabling of the AI way of working even more. So I think that's kind of what they're looking into enhancing, which is really cool. And I just wanted to...
Yeah, I was going to say that was my second pick for sure. And I've seen a little bit of that. We always talk about Josh and Charles's videos, and they actually showed a little bit of that in their latest video, which we'll talk about in our next episode as one of those news items. So yeah, it's just making code apps I'm excited about. I'm diving in, and it's just going to make building Power Apps, code apps so much more accessible to makers. So again, natural language is the new low code, and these types of tools I believe are accessible to makers, not necessarily pure pro code developers. So this is really cool stuff.
Yeah. And as I mentioned, the enhanced, modern, refreshed look for model-driven apps is coming. And also I saw something about enabling push notifications in custom branded apps, which is going to be a good enhancement, I think. And also a lot of offline capabilities, like offline profile using Fetch XML editor and download rapid apps directly from Dataverse. And it's a lot of nifty kind of news items for those things as well. So
yeah. And reading through some of that, like it looks like, there's a lot of investment made in mobile apps, because of course that was the whole thing a few years ago about we're not just working on desktops anymore, we're working on our phones. And it's interesting because kind of related, not related, I'm finding a lot with these new AI tools. And I mean, you mentioned on the last episode, Whisperflow. I've heard about it. Diary CEO, he also is a promo code for it. I put that on my phone, and wow, I am now talking, and not just talking on chats, whatever, but talking to my AIs as well. I was working on a proposal, and I started working on that in one of my AI tools, getting the structure, like it's still me, but I'm kind of directing it. And I actually was able to continue the conversation on my phone as I was having lunch the other day. And I was like, wow, I don't even need my laptop to work on a proposal. I'm back and forth chatting with the AI, going through all the nuances and all that stuff. So the fact that we're kind of focusing on Power Apps getting more mobile is sort of telling that, again, we're kind of on the move. We're doing things. The offline profile using Fetch XML, of course, big fans of Fetch XML, been using for years. It's well established. The wrapped apps as well. I was kind of dove into that. What does that mean? It's realizing, this is something that's existed before, being able to distribute almost. So it's for internal apps. Like you're not going to be releasing the next version of Bejeweled as a Power App on the App Store. Well, you could try, sure. But these are for internal users, but it's just a way to distribute that. So you're not running the Power Apps app and then launching the app within that. You can actually, it looks like a native app to your phone, whether it's Android or the iOS, but that actually is, you don't no longer need the Azure blob storage like you do today. You'll be able to do that from Dataverse. And there was something else. Yeah, push notifications, that's cool. But the new modern refreshed look, when their first iteration of the new look, and I'll be quite blunt, was shit, because the menu was moved over to the right-hand side. You actually had to do multiple clicks to get to menu items. So it was like, how is this better? You're adding clicks to the process. People are used to going to the left-hand corner. So I know myself and a few other folks, we provided the feedback. I'm sure a lot of their customer sites that they tried this. So I'm actually really curious to see sort of the final enhanced look to make sure that all of these things were taken into consideration. They even called it out in the release wave plan when you're kind of read the details, that they took a lot of feedback from during their public and private previews to help and make sure some of the things they weren't losing anymore. So again, I'm cautiously optimistic about this, again, because a lot of it, to be honest, a lot of it is to make room for some more AI features, to have more agent interaction on model-driven apps. So that's the real impetus behind the new refreshed experience, is to help the agents move in. And like I said before, this is how we're going to get more into an agentic world from our existing apps. So we're not just switching over 180. It is going to creep in. And of course, they need real estate for that. So interesting to see sort of what the final version is and making sure that we still can do all the things that we always could do before, but all the new cool stuff as well. Like,
but it's,
no, because the other thing they were talking about was the enhanced row summaries, for example, which is something that I like. We need to make room for that kind of thing. So yeah, sorry, you go ahead.
No, it's just a comment, because it is a double-edged sword, right? Because you want to, as I said, you introduce a model-driven app to a customer that's not used to that kind of UI, and they go, oh, this is very, very busy. What are all these buttons, and can we just hide all the things? Because that's what they want, right? Because they need a kind of more of a simplified user interface. So hiding away some of the tools and some of the buttons, some of the UI to quiet it down a little bit is always a requirement. So for them to do that, it's probably listening to customer feedback. But then, as you said, then you have on the other side of that, you have advanced users who've been using model-driven app for ages, and they have it in their fingertips that just do it automatically. They don't think, and suddenly they have to go through another step or another click or another path to do it. It's going to add another step to their workflow. It's going to mean they have to adjust to a new user interface, and it's going to be taxing on them. And so for Microsoft to try to have a unified interface for everyone and trying to balance on that knife's edge is really difficult. But as I said, I think like I said, the idea is to create space for the agents to come in for both the new and the advanced users to not have to do all that manual work anymore, and for it to be more of an agent to kind of play on each other's and give that tasks to do. And as we've now started to do, to talk to it and just not click as much and not needing to get into that UI so much and not be so click heavy and more kind of human command kind of a way to do it. So it's always, I've been working with user feedback a lot and user interface kind of testing. And it's always the designer has to be in the conversation to level set what the users are saying, because it's like faster horses and cars. They don't know what they really need, and they can't see the future and what it would look like. The only thing they know is that don't add new clicks to my user interface, which is always the kind of, so it's always a trade-off. And I see Microsoft trying to lean in that direction, then they get pushback, but still they have to move in that direction. And it's going to be unpopular for a little while until people get it. And they're like, right, now I get it. Okay, because I'm not going to click that button anymore. So I don't need to add that extra step, right? So it's always that little struggle. Right. So you covered Power Apps perfectly. Thank you. Very good summary. And it all kind of fits together in this cohesive story, which is very good. That's what this release wave should do. And I think we've had some release waves in the past where it doesn't, but actually this do, which I like. So any comments on Power Apps before we move on to the next one?
Yeah, the last thing, and we'll talk, I think, a little bit about this. They talk about the usage page because this pops up a few times. As I was reading about that, I've looked at it, it's kind of handy. You can actually begin to get a good picture of what's going on in your overall enterprise. So like how many people are actually using the apps and things that you've created, how much of all this other stuff. To me, it's beginning to lean a little bit more towards in helping you make licensing decisions in terms of what's being used, how much is actually being used, and be able to adjust with that. There's a few other things I think in Power Automate, some things adjusting around licensing, and it's also, I think, are we going down a road where the licensing enforcement is going to be a little bit more rigid? And to be fair, Microsoft has been pretty, I think, generous in terms of people go a little bit over capacity, like Dataverse. If you go over, it's not going to shut you down. It's going to give you all sorts of warning messages. And you do legally need to be compliant with your licensing. So actually having this usage page also enables you to make sure that you are and kind of focus on that. But I'm also wondering if this also is going to give a situation of, if you go over, if you're habitually going over, are you going to be seeing some blockages because of that? And the fact that we have this usage pane, there's no longer an excuse, because it should be quite clear of what you're allocated for, what you're not. That's just pure speculation on my end. I love this dashboard because it does give you a much better picture than trying to go through some other tools or other third parties to kind of see how much are you using or this or that, or trying to find different areas. Again, it says that usage page is just going to be very helpful going forward in overall the Power Platform. So we'll see.
Yeah. And you see pop up a lot of different areas in this release wave as well. It was released in December, so it's already been around for a little bit. And you can also hook it up to all sorts of kind of notifications and you can keep track of it. And it's like you said, I think up until this point, it's been more of a reactive thing. You can see how much usage you've had and how much capacity you've used kind of in the past, like last month. Now you have the ability to do it real time, which is, to your point, you don't have an excuse anymore. It's not as easy to say, I had no idea. It's just,
I didn't know. Yeah.
No, you see it right there and then. So it's easier for them to enforce it. So yeah, very good. Next up is Power Pages. And the focus this time is around AI tools and enabling developers. There's a lot about that. And also authentication and security. Build and deploy with AI tools, site analytics, and server logs is also exciting. And it plays into the same thing. End user transaction and auditing, curating for site creators and for admins, and then portal authentication enhancements, and a nuanced control for external authentication providers. So it's kind of on the same path as we've seen for the last few years for Power Pages. There's not a lot of surprises in here. And anything kind of standing out for you?
Yeah, I'm hoping I don't steal your thunder on this one, because I know you're a big fan of the templates, of the Dynamics 365 templates. I think one of the very first presentations I ever saw you give in person was at Scottish Summit. A few years ago, and you talked about the Dynamics 365 templates and all about that. Now, they have not, and of course, a lot of these templates are still comes back to the old ADX Studio days. They've evolved not a whole heck of a lot. They've not seen a whole heck of a lot of love. And on the flip side, from what I've been told, one of the biggest use cases for Power Pages is the customer self-service, to be able to log tickets online and everything, a knowledge-based article search. And these templates have sort of been a little bit stuck in the past, but what they've announced in this release plan, that the Dynamics 365 portal templates are going to be enhanced for Bootstrap 5 and the enhanced data model, finally. So pretty excited about that. I'm excited about a lot of these things, but that really stood out to me as something like, okay, finally, we can finally start deploying these portals on a brand, on the proper platform. Of course, with enhanced data model, they're solution aware, they can be transferred. Bootstrap 5. I am learning all about Bootstrap as much as I've been able to navigate through it. Claude Code has been my friend with Bootstrap 5, fixing that in a project I'm working on now. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. There's a lot of neat stuff. Some of the stuff, that was an interesting announcement there. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Did I steal your thunder, or do you have something else that stood out for you?
No, that was my top pick as well, as you knew, because that's what was very important to me, that those kind of get up to speed. And I think they've been a bit slow adopting these, but also we have managed to kind of keep these alive a little bit by creating a new site from scratch, a new blank one, and then grabbing the components and the code bits and the stuff over to the new world, so to speak. So it's good to see that they finally kind of they got those updated. I'm not sure if kind of the train's already left the station and it's a bit too late. I'm kind of thinking maybe, but yeah, that was also my topic. But then I also looked into also, I wanted to mention the enhanced Open ID Connect with encrypted token support, which I know is a big deal for a lot of people. It's going to be public preview in June. So it doesn't have a GA date yet, which is always, then we always kind of take it with a pinch of salt, because we want to see that GA date to be kind of more confident that they're actually going to go through with this. What this means is that it opens up for Power Pages to use other identity providers than it has as of now, more advanced identity and authentication providers, which it can also be then you can still use your same user flows. It kind of enables more of the providers out there in a more secure way. So I know that we have a few projects where we've come up against this restriction, or that they don't have this right now. So this is something personally I'm very excited to see them bring this on. So this is going to be good. Let's see if there's something else. There was a lot of things that was regional specific, and then they just list all the regions. And I'm like, well, why use page real estate when it's just all the same? But then,
Yes, but did you notice, for instance, the building Power Pages sites faster with AI coding tools, that there's some geographies that are not supported or not on the list, or sorry, they're on the list, but there's been no date attached to them. And
No.
okay, so I found that very, very like surprising. Like, first off, I thought, okay, it's a language thing. So for example,
Wow. Australia is
Norway,
not supported.
yeah, Norway wasn't supported. So I thought, okay, if it's the Norwegian language, I get it. But Australians speak English.
No, it's not a language thing. It's the data centers. So then that means the data centers don't have the solution packages that is needed for this capability to be supported. So it's the same thing as with the generative pages. The data center, the Norwegian, if you have a Dataverse environment in the Norwegian region, the data center don't have the necessary packages and the necessary things to support it. So, and it's surprising still that that's the case for Australia. But I see, so New Zealand, same thing, Italy, Japan, Poland,
Yeah.
Spain, Sweden, so many. And then, of course, US government and...
Oh, yeah. Well, the US government clouds, of course, that's always, they're always a little bit behind. So yeah, if you are planning on using a specific feature, do check out the dates on the, or if it's going to be available in your data center. Because you don't want to be telling your customers, oh yeah, we're going to do this, and then realize that you can't. Or you make different decisions on your data centers if you can. And I know that's not always possible.
Yeah. And also, we always, we forgot to do this time, but we usually also separate between features and functionality that are end user specific things, and then also developer specific things. So this is a developer feature or capability, which allows us to use AI tools to initialize, create, and finalize creating a Power Pages site. Makes it from end to end, really. So it's about using Cloud Code to spin up a Power Pages SPA, a single page application. You can set up, it will configure, do all the Power Pages config for you. You don't have to go into the designer or anything, and it will build it end to end. You could do that in the US environment, and then you can grab the SPA that it creates and bring that code into a Norwegian environment. That would work because the code is self-sufficient, because SPA is GA. So it's not that you can't do it. You just have to make sure you know what you're doing. And also, of course, if you do that, then you won't get support for that if that's what you've done, probably-ish. That's what it means. But the end functionality, the end result might be the same, even though it's not available in Norway. So that's kind of how we look at it. But then you have other features of functionality where you want to use it in the environment that you are in. And if you're in a Norwegian environment, you can't access it because it doesn't exist. Like with generative pages, for instance, right? You can't use it because it's like experience you talked about just a minute ago, it's inaccessible to you, which is kind of different. This is a developer thing, so you can work around it.
Yeah. And
but also
alluded
in this,
to, Yep, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No. You go. I scroll.
No, I was going to say, you alluded to earlier about it's also here, the unifying Power Pages by merging web roles and the Dataverse security roles. So
we talked about
actually have dates on this now.
Oh yeah, we do. Let me find that.
It is public preview March 2026 with general availability August 2026.
Well, I'll see it. I believe it when I see it. So that's
page 27 on the version that we have.
Exactly. Right. So and also other things. These are not news. This has been around for a while. The server-side logic, client API, and also the build faster with AI tools as well. And also some security agent stuff, which is not new. So a lot of the things for Power Pages are old news, basically, and things already known. But it's good to see that it's moving in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. And
Any other comments for Power Pages?
No, I think, like a lot of this is old news, but it's kind of nice to see some dates on things. So for instance, like server logic going to be GA pretty shortly. I believe in April, if I read that correctly. And of course, even the new client API, April 2026. And the new CLI, like, so adding and creating websites using like the PAX CLI, again, a little thing, but if you're batching a lot of these things and trying to create developer environments, it's just cool. You don't have to need to go into the user interface and start clicking through the whole wizard. You can just go and automate some of this stuff. So I think hopefully we'll have a chance to talk a little bit about some of the ALM features overall in the Power Platform. One thing that I did not see here, and I'm curious of where they're at, is I find that if, in terms of ALM downloading, when you use the pack CLI commands to download the portal code to your local workstation, that always overwrites. If you actually link it up to GitHub, it always overwrites that GitHub information. So for syncing back up into source control, it is a bit of a roadblock. I know that they're aware of it. I just don't see anything here about that. So I'm just kind of curious where that is in the grand scheme of things. But for the rest, the Power Pages team just keeps moving along with new stuff. It seems the last few months, they've been almost every week, there's been something new coming out. We'll talk about in the next episode about the agent APIs that they released a blog article about a week ago, which I don't see here, but that must have been in the last one, or some of these features kind of sneak in around these release plans. But and it's exciting. It's also neat to see Power Pages listed as the number 2 thing. Usually it was always buried way, way deep in the release plans. And now you can see it's becoming more and more prominent as we get into this more agentic world. I think Power Pages is going to be one of those canvases that we're going to be surfacing AI agents, especially to external users, to interact with our business systems. So, as we always say, exciting times.
Yeah, definitely exciting times. Right. So moving on to the next one, which is kind of, so it's Power Automate, and Power Automate for a lot of us is just cloud flows, but it is a lot more than that. This release wave is more about desktop flows than anything else I find. So for Power Automate, the focus areas have been smarter automation. So automations on the desktop become more intelligent and resilient with AI agents. Well, we'll see. And then self-healing capabilities. Again, I love that. It's just like, we don't believe it, but okay. And then so this is a story we've heard before, especially with desktop apps. It make your productivity and collaboration. So gains sorting and optimization assistance from agents. So you're now going to collaborate with agent creating something. And also they talk a little bit about license sharing with flow groups and self-service restore capabilities. And then process mining gets a lot of love this time as well.
Yeah.
So you can now, it's process intelligent, introduces object-centric process mining for complex interconnected processes, and a modern process intelligence studio workspace. Sounds grandiose, but this is very interesting to me. I'm going to dive into it more, I'm sure, but it brings in Fabric to the mix with process mining, and it kind of opens up the box to now be process mining for intertwined, interconnected, advanced processes across your whole Microsoft ecosystem, which is really, really cool. Enterprise governance and licensing is the last focus area. So, and they also list the cloud flows and Copilot for Power Automate, desktop flows, and process mining. But there's nothing here on AI Builder. Doesn't have anything. So, which is kind of interesting. But okay. It's not
I
even
think that's just sort of
the word.
That's the evolution of things. Yeah, I noticed, like, in terms of cloud flows, which, I mean, I use cloud flows quite a bit. I think you do as well. I don't do a lot in the desktop flows area. I've looked at it a few times. Sometimes you hit a use case and like, okay, do we need to bring in the desktop flows because the APIs are weird or there's something sort of missing with all of this? In terms of the cloud flows, I know the new designer there is a new designer. I've heard mixed reviews about that, and that's always a bone of contention. A lot of people still going back to the classic designer, how the Copilot is going to be better. Although we saw last week, like we discussed about Sean Astrachan when he used the Claude browser extension to write his flow for him, and it did a better job than Copilot did. So hopefully Copilot built in catches up a little bit here. Mm-hmm. There's one thing that did jump out to me that I thought was pretty slick in terms of for desktop flows, which we might see similar things pop up in terms of agents, because we're all talking about, well, give the agent the job and they're going to go off and do it. But for desktop flows, they have video logs for unattended runs. So I guess with desktop flows, you get that off and running, and all of a sudden you get an error message. Well, you have to look through the logs. What went wrong? What error message came up? And then sometimes, from my understanding, it doesn't always make a lot of sense. You kind of got to go through manually, go through the steps. What screwed up? it works now, didn't work before, or what's happened, what's changed. This way you can actually look at the video as if you can look at the screen. You can see the mouse move on the screen. Where did it click? Ooh, there was a strange pop-up that happened that normally doesn't happen. That's what disrupted the whole flow. So having that video log is kind of like your security cam footage of there was a break-in to see what happened more visually. So I thought that's pretty cool. That could be something that might kind of tie into other things. So that was just sort of like, in terms of picks, that was sort of my pick. The other thing too was that kind of got me interested too. And again, I don't do a lot of desktop flows. For all our RPA peeps out there seems to be a lot of cool stuff for you. If you have comments about it, definitely let us know. The other thing that I saw was building better forms, the fact that it would more integrate better with the Power Apps forms. So even as we said, the interface is changing, but these forms might change a little bit. But the fact that we're using forms and not just screen captures instead, that makes it a little bit more robust and a little bit more solid as well. Yeah, a lot of interesting things in terms of Power Automate. But yeah, desktop flows and process mining seem to got a lot of love in this particular release wave.
Yeah, really does. I also saw this is a small thing, the view property value expanded in line in the new Cloudflow designer, and the new designer you talked about. I think that's something that's going to save us a lot of time, just because it's something you always do when you set a flow up. It's just a small thing, and I think I brought it up just to kind of exemplify the highs and the lows, or the bigs and the smalls. Like this release wave, usually there's a bit of a difference between the areas. Some of them focus on really big things, and small, few but big things, and then other areas will focus on really small details. And usually when we have Power BI in here, usually Power BI would be the one that had so many, like 20 small little detail things. But I think this time it's been more evenly distributed. But these small little things like this can have a lot of impact, but then usually they'll get a lot of attention. So I think that's cool. So that's for cloud flows. But something that stood out for me for desktop flows is the ability to schedule desktop flows directly.
Yeah.
So before, what you had to do is you had to create a cloud flow that would trigger a desktop flow to kind of have that schedule. But now, not only can you then schedule the flow directly, but you also get something called the Unified Schedules List in Automation Center, which gives you an overview of all the scheduled flows that you have. And you'll kind of be able to see, because that's always also an issue, right? To keep track of which flows are firing and when they're firing. And then if you have it in production, then you also have the maintenance window, and you need to make sure that things don't cross with Microsoft's maintenance stuff and your ALM pipeline thing. And then you have the flows running, and when were they running again? And what were they triggering? And then you have the F&O sync. And then, so just having a place to kind of see all your ducks in a row and kind of get a bit of an overview is going to be awesome. And then also I saw something for process mining, which I wanted to talk about. And this was the Enable Process Intelligence Studio and Object-Centric Process Mining. It's public preview in April, and it's going to be GA by June. And it talks about a new process intelligence studio that eliminates friction between your questions and your answers. So kind of having that unified, more broader, cohesive way of looking at the process mining across your whole ecosystem, or the whole Microsoft ecosystem, is going to be very powerful. And this is something I'm really keen on looking more into, because we haven't been diving too much into process mining. And to me, it's kind of like either you do that and you just do that and not a lot of other things, or it's kind of a little bit of a black box. It sounds, and when I've been to sessions where I've seen people demo this, and it looks almost magical to me. But what I've also heard is people can use that or try to use it, and then kind of come to this point where they go, okay, it becomes almost too big. Yeah, you can see, or kind of, because what it will do is it will showcase kind of where you have bottlenecks, where your processes aren't working. Maybe there's a bit of and also in Norway, we have a very strong protection of workers. And so you're not allowed to go in and say, well, Trina's not doing a good job. Every time a case goes through Tina, this happens, or because you need to be more anonymized and generalized than that. So that also kind of puts a bit of a damper on things. But it is a very powerful tool when you can look at it from a very cohesive way. And you can bring Fabric and maybe the IQ stack into this as well. And so going to open up to see your whole system more holistically, which is really cool. So excited to see what that brings to the table.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So next one, so we have Copilot Studio and Dataverse left to go. So for Microsoft Copilot Studio, the highlights of the focus areas are they're focusing on making it easier to create and operate agents. It's the kind of interplay and collaboration between Microsoft 365 Copilot or Agent Builder.
Yeah.
And Copilot
that's what it's
Studio
called this week.
I know, I'm just thinking before I speak. It's a new thing I've started to. So the interplay between them, the collaboration between them is getting tighter. And also get high value out of the box actions in workflows with Big W. I think I'm missing something, but okay. Let's set up. What was your favorite thing?
I think just a lot of the enhancements on about the MCP servers. That was, I mean, of course, that is just going to open up a whole realm of opportunities for building agents and things like that. Like just the fact, like MCP servers, just again, one of these other things that sort of came out of the blue last year. Like, okay, what is it and what does it do? And then once you start actually using it, you're like, wow, this is so cool. You don't have to mess around with like the APIs and things like that. Like just talking to the MCP server, understanding what the commands are, understanding what your MCP server can do, but then tying that into your agents. And basically say connect any agent to any external data with custom MCP servers. That was the one that kind of really jumped out at me. There's definitely a lot of interesting things in here. And Ulrikke, I wonder if I wanted to learn about how to build agents in Copilot Studio, what do you think I should do?
If I were you, what I would do is I would actually sign up for Color Cloud in Hamburg in April, and I would go to a workshop with 2 clowns that know how to make Copilot agents and have them teach me how to create my agent.
Oh, that's great.
With the Agent Academy curriculum.
Wow, that's really cool. Is there any way I could get a discount for that?
I don't know. Is there?
You could use Color Boost to get a discount. Oh, right. I think it's
you can 10%. Use Color
Boost. We're such bad at self-promotion. But yeah. Anyways, I thought I would just throw that in as we're talking here.
I love it. The promotion really, man, it feels like a real podcast now.
It does.
But yeah. No, I like it. So yeah, but actually, no, that's true. And actually in that, so we're going to go through the recruit part of the Agent Academy curriculum, the course, which will teach you both how to do Microsoft 365 Copilot or using AI Builder to create a declarative agent and also create one from Copilot Studio. So this is going to tie you, when you're done with that workshop with us, you're going to be able to see both sides of this. And then also now you can work with them together. Yeah, I agree. The connect any agent to any external data with MCP servers is going to be public preview in March, and it's going to be general availability in April. So by the time we do Color Cloud, maybe it's shown up already.
Yeah, awesome.
So what stood out for me was the evaluate agents for Microsoft 365 Copilot in Copilot Studio.
Yeah.
So this is the Agent Builder declarative agent, the one you create through Microsoft 365. You can bring that into Copilot Studio and also refer to as declarative agents. And there's a very comprehensive evaluation framework tailored for these kinds of agents as you bring them in. And this to me speaks to the Fusion team story, which we've had with this platform for a while. The idea that any employee in your organization can go in through their own Microsoft 365 and then create their own agent. But that is for them in their context, and you can't really share it with anyone. And it has limited amount of knowledge sources it can connect to, and there's a limit. Now you can bring that into Copilot Studio, and you can bring that into your development team, and then they can evaluate it, and they can also help you extend it, which is the next thing. You can now extend those those agents to be Copilot Studio agents, and what they'll get more knowledge sources available. You can extend them to more with more tooling. So there's more you can do. And this will be public. So the evaluate agents for Microsoft 365 Copilot in Copilot Studio will be public preview in July 2026. There's no GA date for it, unfortunately. And
Work in progress.
Yes, well, it always makes me a bit, And also, if I can, what?
No, I agree with you. Like, if there's no GA dates, I'm like, okay, I think because we've seen in the past that there's no GA dates, it stays in perpetual preview forever. We've seen that in a few other features. Business Central Power Pages, anybody? But so anyways, but yeah, there's things like that. The other thing, as you're looking for that, the other thing that stood out for me was the grouping files with instructions to guide agent answers. They gave a really good example in the release plan, at least the copy that we got. It's funny because as I'm traveling and all sorts of weirdness is going on, they talked about, using that particular feature for guiding agent answers. So if you happen to be flying in business class or something, the luggage rules are going to be slightly different for someone flying in economy. And so this is where they can begin to group the instructions based on where people are coming from and some of the context. Yet kind of go through the same motions, but kind of pull in different knowledge sources and grouping the source file, the knowledge materials they're doing. So that was, I think that's pretty, beginning to getting your agents be able to configure them for different scenarios, but kind of begin to work with different knowledge sources around that. But it's the same process. So that I found pretty interesting as well. I haven't actually used it yet, but definitely some neat things with that.
Yeah. And also I saw, because this is something that Louise Fries talked about a little while ago, didn't she? And because this was public preview in 2025, but this is now GA in May 2026. So I think the big news is that it's going to be GA soon. It's been a long time coming for that as well. And another thing that caught my eye was that you can now configure triggers with end user credentials. It's going to be public preview in March and GA in May. And so you can now manage trigger natively with Copilot Studio and securely share autonomous agents that will run with end user credentials, which is something we've been able to do with Power Automate for a while. But now we can do it with Copilot Studio agents as well, which I know it's going to be very handy. So it has to do with the connection references and all how that works. But it's then going to be able to trigger the end user and for them to authenticate and for it to run with that context into the action that it needs to do. And that was actually also listed with the geographies, and almost all of the geographies have that as March 2026, which is very good, except for the US government.
The government clouds
stuff.
Yeah, that's always a thing. You do a presentation, and especially you do a presentation in North America and the US, it's like, is this going to be available for GCC? Like,
no.
Nope, not yet.
Let's move on to Dataverse, which is the last one. So focus area for Dataverse is Dataverse in Work IQ. So if you remember, in November, they announced the Frontier framework and the Work IQ, the Foundry IQ, and the Fabric IQ. And now you will have your business data natively integrated into Microsoft 365 Copilot experiences. And then you'll have that kind of link between Dataverse and Work IQ, which is phenomenal, which has been kind of Microsoft's 365 or M365 area kind of up until now. And then also agent programmability and extensibility. So you have Work IQ APIs and MCP servers that developers can configure, extend, and integrate with business agents. And then you have storage management with Data Hub, Storage Advisor, etc. So anything here that kind of stood out for you that you wanted to highlight?
There wasn't. I mean, Dataverse has been one of those things. It is like the foundation of the Power Platform. It's built on like 25 years of evolution. And that's not a bad thing. It's that robust data storage. Yeah, but little things like monitoring the data management framework, like you said, with storage. That's always something that people are trying to figure out. So better tools around that's always good. Of course, the MCP servers, the Dataverse MCP server, it's an amazing thing to work with that. I've been using that a little bit in my own software development. Of course, that getting that enhanced and continue on is cool. Interesting thing about, we talked about this, I think probably a year ago, the ability to restore deleted records will be GA. So if you've been waiting to restore your deleted records, you finally, in a supported way, it's finally going to be GA. Hopefully it didn't go beyond that, the limits. I think you can set up to a 30-day retention period in the back end if you need to restore records. I mean, it happens. I've had it happen with customers. They call in a panic. We lost data. And you have to kind of figure out your way around that. Yeah. So that's definitely coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not like Dataverse didn't have like, the pages and pages that that we've seen with some of the other features. And then I do want to touch on go ahead.
No, yeah, because I did before you were going to move on. I just saw that you can now create and I don't know a whole lot about this, but the way I read this is so you have Monitor Data Management Framework with Azure Monitor and Application Insights for finance and operations, which
So
I just wanted to touch on that bit before we moved on, because if this means you haven't been able to connect finance and operations to application insights before, then now you can. And if that's the case, then wow, that's huge and very beneficial, because if the data is so connected, if you haven't before been able to see the data flow and monitor it across the different Dataverse and finance and operations, then now you can, which is huge. And it's going to be a public preview in March and general available in June. So just wanted to mention that before we move on.
Yeah, you see more and more that continuing merging. I mean, you got to look at it historically. Finance and operations comes from Exapta, which had its own data storage, and more they've been trying to integrate that with Dataverse, because as we work with the Power Platform, these systems are more to be interoperable. We've worked on projects where dual write was a factor, and we always know that presents itself with a whole set of challenges, sometimes issues you have to work through with the dual write processes. But just to see again more and more that merging, hopefully that's going to make again things work smoother and easier, and a much more robust platform for end customers that happen to be using both Dataverse for Power Apps or other things and finance and operations.
Yeah. So there is another one. Did you have anything more for Dataverse specifically?
Not specific for Dataverse, but I did want to touch on the fact that there is a section on governance in ALM, because there's a couple things at ALM that I wanted to touch on specifically about to be able to deploy from Git with pipelines. That's pretty interesting. And the fact that there's going to be GitHub support for source code integration. That's something currently you have to use. Now remember, Git and GitHub. GitHub is like an online source. It's like Azure DevOps. Microsoft does have a stake in that. Git is the sort of language, so sometimes it gets a little bit muddled there. But to be able to use GitHub as your source control for your Power Platform solutions and projects as part of the kind of the built-in Git integration. Let's try to make sure I get all these terminologies right.
Because up until now, you've had to use Azure DevOps.
Correct.
Repo as your container, but now you can actually use GitHub as your container instead.
Right. Yes. So you can use, yes, absolutely. Yes. And that's something I know I've had customers asking me before, can we do that? And I knew it was coming. So finally we see this in the release plan. That's really cool. But also the fact that we can deploy from Git with Azure, with pipelines, that's pretty exciting, because that way we can finally get to that more proper ALM process, so we don't have to worry about. And I know I still see this in projects, and is Dataverse, your Dataverse developer instance should not be your source control. Yet I know it is for a lot of people. So this way, if you actually have your source control is in, it's in Azure DevOps or it's in GitHub, and they'd be able to deploy from that with a pipeline to say and go through the process. We need to do right now. A lot of times we need to do dev environment. That's great, but we need to go through a few steps. And yes, people have written scripts to do this, but there's still a few moving parts here. If we can kind of smooth that whole process where it's like, hey, I'm a developer. I need to set up a dev environment. We need to work on a new feature. But also this helps with the parallelism as well, where you can actually deploy bug fixes for your production while you're working on new features in parallel, and be able to do the proper merging and all of that other stuff. So the ALM story, as I said before, over the last, I think 5 years or so, has gone from like hack together PowerShell scripts that you get from the community to something more and more robust each year and each release plan. Of course, co-pilots and AI and agents are sort of stealing the show, but these things happening in the background. And I know the team's been working on a lot of things. We worked a lot with Power Platform pipelines last year. That has come a long way as well. So the whole ALM story in the Power Platform just keeps getting better and better. Not 100% perfect yet, but it's getting to where it's on par with doing any other kind of software development, which is really cool to see.
Yeah. It means, for me, this is like, well, pipelines grew up and it's now going to be able to play with kind of the Azure DevOps pipelines and also the other dev kind of grown up ALM tools, a way that it hasn't been doing in the past. And I also think, because this also means that you can now, I don't see it in, I've been trying to reading through as you were speaking about if, but this also means that you now be able to schedule it, for instance, right? So, because that's been a big thing in the past. So maybe this also means you'll have access to triggers that can mean that you can now also schedule these deployments in a way which hasn't been accessible, only been accessible through the UI up until this point. But if they've managed to kind of now jam this so you can now work with it alongside all the other tools, so maybe you'll be able to do that. I hope. Fingers crossed. It's public preview. Did you say that? Public preview April 2026.
April, yeah, but no general availability.
No GA date. So
yeah.
We're very hopeful, and I would love to see this come into fulfillment. But we'll see.
And just again, shameless plug, if you want to learn about ALM and the Power Platform, and I think when this gets released, it's probably going to be the last day you're going to be able to sign up for it. So if you were to pick a couple MVPs in our community that come to mind as soon as you say ALM, what are 3 names that come to your mind?
You and Benedict Verma and Chris Huntingford, and I don't know. No, and Michael Roth.
Interesting. So yeah, you said Benedict, for me, Parvez.
Oh yeah.
And Sean Astrachan. So those 3 are doing a workshop at the Canadian Power Platform Summit. Like I said, when we release this, that's going to be in a day or 2 in Vancouver. Other workshops have been selling out. This one I think could sell out as well. So you might be able to sneak in, get a ticket, and you're going to learn ALM and the Power Platform from the best in the world.
Yeah.
So
let's see if they probably don't have anything on this specifically, but yeah, I know it's that's going to be well worth it. So make sure to check that out. And I'm going to see you there, and I'm excited about it. It's going to be so much fun. Right. So anything else? There's a lot of things in here. I mean, I think we could just done a whole episode on this, on the governance and ALM part, because there's a lot of, and also the new usage page is mentioned again.
Yeah.
And so discover and foster Power Platform adoption with the new usage page. It was public preview, it says, on February 13th, which I thought I saw December there somewhere for one of the other ones, but it's GA in June, and it has so many. So it's all about the metrics, and it includes Power Apps, Power Automate, Copilot Studio, sessions, token usage, users. It covers a lot of things. And I'm sure we haven't heard the last of this usage page. But of course, it has to do with kind of keeping on top of what you're using. And as we know, with AI, usage goes up. You need to make sure you keep an eye on your credits or credentials or tokens or what it's called this week. Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's tons of stuff. Like you're right. We could have done a podcast on each separate thing, but I think our goal here is to give everybody a little bit of an overview, get excited about some of these new features coming up. Unless there's anything other new, just to wrap things up, do you want to talk a little bit about the deprecations before we wrap this up for the day?
Yeah, I haven't really looked all that much into them. I must be honest. I didn't really get that far. So did you check them out?
No, but these are things that are published on Microsoft Learn. I think things that shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. There is a deprecation of the editable grid and the Power Apps read-only grid controls, because there is a new grid control being with that. So that's being deprecated. Now, again, deprecated doesn't mean deleted in most cases. It basically means no longer being supported. No, it would be supported, but no longer being enhanced. So it still is usable. And if it's going to be deleted, they specifically have to say that. So we have deprecations for Canvas apps and for Power Pages and for the Power Platform in general. Again, no real big surprises here. Things like the other things that were sort of things that don't even matter anymore, like the old Power Apps Portal Studio, if you remember that. That's officially now gone, and basically creating sites directly from Power Apps. I think that's already been gone for a couple years now. And yeah, so little things like that. So again, just it's always good to keep an eye on the deprecations. But like I said, there's nothing huge. There's nothing that people are going to be screaming in the streets about. So yeah, just again, this is always a good time to be a reminder. If you're a system admin or a power user, just go to those deprecations page just in case there's something that you're planning on using or you have using that. Again, might necessarily doesn't mean it's going away. It's just not going to be enhanced. So if you're waiting for the Copilot for business rules in that old interface, that won't happen. So things like that.
Yeah. No, it's smart to keep an eye on the deprecation of create an app from Figma files, for instance, which I'm happy to see going away. And yeah, these are dated as well. So make sure you kind of keep up on track of both the things you're working on, but also kind of the dates for when that's going to happen. And it's also one of the Copilot for Microsoft 365. Model-driven apps for environments that don't have the biz apps, for instance, is going to be replaced with something that's a preview feature. It was never GA because by the time they kind of got that far, it's going to be more of a unified interface where you have this one kind of side panel kind of unified experience, and then you won't be able to add that in. So something that was preview that never kind of came to fulfillment because by the time it was replaced with something else. So if you're using that, then, that also something you need to kind of keep an eye on. Right. Very good. So anything else you wanted to touch on before we leave people to kind of dive through this long 100 pages long thing?
130 page. That's the copy weed has 130 pages. I don't see that changing for the final version. I think we touched on a lot of the highlights that stood out for us. I think if you want to get a good full comprehensive, I would say, take a read through it, check out the things, check out the areas that you're specifically working on. And hopefully what we've highlighted too helps you out just to give you a kind of brief summary. I think these are always really cool episodes for us because this is for us, like we get excited about these new things coming out as well. But sometimes there's just so much coming out. It's like, okay, wait a minute. Have I heard about this before? Or what I find too is like, okay, I've heard about this, but was that under NDA or were we not allowed to talk about it up until this point? So certain things even the Power Pages, the merging of the contacts and users, I tried that last fall. I played around with it, but of course that was at that point still under NDA as they were evolving it. So it's kind of cool to see some of these things kind of pop up into the, to the public and people can begin to try them out. It just, a lot of cool stuff. Never a shortage of new things to be learning. I am learning new things every week. And this is what makes this job so exciting.
Yeah, for me as well. It's a bit hard to keep up with it every now. Well, I'll keep up with it all, but that's why we're here. So we try to keep up with things so that you guys can focus on your day job and then listen to us rant and talk and ramble about stuff and keep you up to date. And we'll continue to do that next week.
Yeah, and I will see you in person this Friday, I think.
I know, yeah. Isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait.
I
Coming
know.
to Canada for CPPS.
If I get out of here, which I hopefully will, all things considered, all green lights. So get home, do a load of laundry, and hop on a plane and get to Vancouver. So
repack.
So so when you do hear this, if you are in the Vancouver area, like I said, we are we are sold out for our regular session. So if you have your ticket, we'll see you there. If you don't and you desperately want to go, the backdoor way to get in at this point is we still have some room in a few workshops. The workshops do come with a ticket to the main event. And there's some amazing workshops. Like I said, the ALM workshop on career and certification, and also I think creating the beautiful apps. Catherine and Joe, there's still a few seats available. I need to check this morning, but they were on the verge of going over that point where we're shutting them down. Lisa Dion's Copilot session, it did sell out completely. They are sold out. Thanks to the community for all your support for this event. We're really looking forward to it. The organizers, we've been working in the background to make this, I think, trying to bring that vibe of those European events like Nordic Summit and Tallinn and Color Cloud, trying to bring that vibe into Canada, but of course have our own flavor and around that as well. So really, I'm super excited for this year. we always kind of lead up to it like, oh, we're never going to do this again. And then of course we do it like, oh yeah, of course we're doing this again next year. So
the number of times we had that conversation, Nick. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to make you put money down soon to profit from it. I'm going to be part of the volunteering group, and hopefully I'm going to be at the door greeting everyone, giving you your card, your lanyard, and all your stuff when you get there. So I'm really excited to see everyone. It's going to be awesome. And I expect nothing more than to Vancouver to show up like it has for the last time I was there, which is bright sun and spring feeling, and just, getting my sunglasses out and everything. So, yeah. You did sort that out, didn't you?
Well, yeah, the problem is if it gets sunny, then people might not show up. Like a bit of rain, then people will come. So it's Vancouver. It's probably going to rain, but as long as it's not snowing.
Yeah. Oh, that's okay. Yeah. All right. Safe travels home. Hope you get home. Hope you're not delayed anymore. And then I'll catch you later. Bye, everyone.
Right. Sight.
Thanks for listening. And if you like this episode, please make sure to share it with your friends and colleagues in the community. Make sure to leave a rating and review of your favorite streaming service, and makes it easier for others to find us. Follow us on the social media platforms and make sure you don't miss an episode. Thanks for listening to the Power Platform Boost podcast with your hosts, Ulrikke Åkerbeck and Nick Dolman, and see you next time for your timely boost of Power Platform news.